Running away is still one of my most exhilarating memories 16 years later. I'll be turning 32 next month, and in the previous days have been doing some reflection on the time past. One memory in particular stands out, and as shitty of an experience as it was, the aftermath was an exhilarating dose of independence and confidence. I had a lot of issues in my adolescent years. Not to sound cliché, but I was the product of divorce and hated my stepfather. Things started off for me with a pretty big bang. I was on a youth aid panel at 12-year-old because I accidentally burned down a barn. It was genuinely an accident, but I was playing with a lighter. Between 13 and 14 I started smoking weed and drinking liquor, which graduated to fights and suspensions and truancy. When I was 16 years old was when things really started to change. I was stealing cars and committing petty burglaries, sheds, garages, etc., just really stupid shit. In 2007 my actions did finally catch up to me. I stole a crate of liquor bottles out of a garage, and my friend stole his dad's credit card, and we took off for senior week in Ocean City, Maryland. I'm not sure what we were expecting to come back to, honestly. Maybe up to that point, since we felt invincible, we figured we'd find our way out, but of course we didn't. He was court-ordered to boot camp for 3 months, followed by 3 months in an independent living home. I was court-ordered to attend New Hope Academy in Factoryville, Pennsylvania for 6 months. NHA was a subset basically of Teen Challenge. It was Christian-based rehabilitation. I won't get into the details of things that occurred there, but a lawsuit was filed in the end by multiple families and compensation was paid out. I ran away 3 times while at NHA. This was not a high-security facility by any means. It was a tiny T-shaped building that I walked right out the front door. The first time I ran away we were at a weekend retreat in Raresburg, Pennsylvania, at some place called God's Mountain, where there was a Teen Challenge facility. We camped out on cots under a huge tarp. I stayed up till 4 a.m. pretending to be asleep. Then I snuck out of the tarp and headed for the tree line. But I fucked up because the tree line was next to TC buildings which had motion-activated lights. Once they came on I took off running, off the property, across the street, and into the cornfield. A pickup truck started driving up and down the road with a light, so I just laid down and stayed put. Eventually I made my way towards the main road and started walking through backyards. I figured while it's dark it gave me the best chance of not being seen. By midday, not far from Lancaster, I hitchhiked my way home, which was dumb, because they were waiting. Police and my mom. So lesson learned. The second time I ran away I evaded for much longer. I also hitchhiked much sooner. Originally my plan was to make my way to the Susquehanna River and follow it the entire way home. But I caught a ride into Binghamton, New York until the next morning, where I hitchhiked again to Wellsboro, PA, where I knew someone I could stay with. I was there for a few days until I finally gave in and talked to my mom. I told her where I was but that I wasn't going back. About an hour later police showed up and I took off into the woods. But I was convinced by the family I stayed with to come back, so I did. The third time I ran away my plan was to make my way towards Scranton so I could hopefully use a payphone to call someone to help me get a bus ticket. At this point though I was watched much closer and I was only on the run for a handful of hours. It was my least successful attempt. After 3 unsuccessful runaways I opened my forearm with a razor blade and it required 14 stitches. When I got to the hospital, the NHA staff accompanied me because at that point in time to the state they were my legal guardians. I started telling a bogus story about how I hurt my arm, roughhousing, and hit it on the corner of the bed frame. She asked the staff to leave, and later I found out it's because she could read my body language, that I was lying because staff was there. I told her the truth and she contacted SIZE. While SIZE opened an investigation, I also later found out the PA State Police did as well. They wanted to understand why I kept running. Fast forward a few weeks, and one by one we were slowly pulled out of the program. And to this day, as horrible of an experience as it was, I'll never forget the feeling of being 16, on the run, underneath the summer stars. I'll never forget how proud I was of myself, and I'll never forget that sense of freedom. I was young, alone, on the run, and I handled it like a fucking boss. These days I'm much more cool, calm, and collected. I'm a father, I have a career, and life is good. But I'll never forget running down Savage Road in the middle of the night not knowing what to expect, but knowing I knew that was better than where I was.